If you're seeing this, you just went through the biggest fucking transformation of your life. And if you haven't started counting your wins yet, they're about to start coming in. And they're about to start coming in really fast. Because I'm seeing this happen. And as soon as I like kind of made a shift, one shift, I was like, oh fuck, let's go. So in this video, I want to describe to you when everything started to happen for me, what I've been through the last 10 months, and where I'm at now, and why going through this eclipse portal felt like I was taking off all the parachutes that were holding me back. And that's why I put on my track jacket today. I never wear a track jacket, and I'm like, let's go! So before we get started, go ahead and subscribe to this channel. Give it a like at any time I create value, which I should have already done for you. And if you got a question, drop it in the comments below. So let's get started. Number one, when did all this kind of shit start happening? Right around the beginning to middle of June. So I'd say about June 10th. We'll say, I think it was the last eclipse too. There was something significant that happened around June. It was Gemini season, but it was about 10 months ago. 10 months ago, my life got fucking just destroyed. Let me give you, and relay this back to your life as you can. So what happened was, essentially, I was tired of doing what I was doing in business. So I was just making videos, marketing videos and branding videos for clients, and was like, yeah, I used to think this was it, but it's not it anymore. It needed more, right? So that was dying. I just went through a breakup, and then literally was starting to travel way more, and I didn't know how to handle that with life. So essentially, travel was exploding. My satisfaction with work was decreasing. I knew it was time to switch to something new, but nothing had popped up. Just had a breakup, was burnout from traveling a ton, and then got super burnout with the work I was doing for clients because essentially I wasn't charging enough and was doing way too much work and creating way too much value that it was actually like hurting me. Ugh. And then ended up acquiring a company called Weekender Collective, which is my adventure travel brand, which came off as like a clothing company, okay? And I've been trying to literally rebrand that since August. And that has finally tamed down a little bit. And then got a new girlfriend. And then that girlfriend and we went to Costa Rica and we did ayahuasca. And then ayahuasca completely destroyed that relationship, which I think I learned from the first relationship of how to just be like, okay, well, this is okay. Like, this happens. And she was not. Which then that opened the door to more problems. And that was actually going to be my vacation. That was supposed to be a vacation and rest and relax. And it turned into like an absolute fucking nightmare. And then came back from that, was in Kansas City for a week, and then went out to Bali and was like, Bali's always been a dream. And I ended up trading content for my trip, and then that ended up being an absolute nightmare. And even before I did that, I knew like there's just like this exchange in my head where I was like, all right, you're giving away a ton of value, which tend to be the lesson of last year is I gave away too much value, okay? And then and then essentially Bali was just like, I ended up, I felt very undervalued for the value I was providing, and something that was like, here, I'd love to come and help you and also like, get some stuff for myself, turned into this like, they were seeing my value and I was providing a ton of it, and it kind of created, and it was just like, and that was right after Aya. So essentially that was a major lesson from Aya. And then essentially like, before I knew it, it was like New Year's. I was exhausted. I finally wrapped up all that stuff. And then I was like, what am I going to do this year? I need to get my brand launched. I need to get Weekender launched, and I'm exhausted. And then that's what I've essentially been doing since January. Really high focus on Weekender. And then sitting through all this stuff, right? Like all this stuff I described to you, that was a lot to come up. Like that was a lot. And it's now March 20th, 19th. Today's March 19th. And from January to March, I've essentially just been sitting with this shit and healing it and feeling it. And even going through like a dopamine detox where I didn't use, alcohol, weed, nicotine, like no movies, no TV shows for a solid month. In the midst of, just so I could like go through and feel all this stuff and get my energy and my zen back. And then bam, before you know it, it was like March 19th and I'm like, oh my God, like I feel great. What happened? And everybody over here is like, I feel like freaking out because this eclipse energy. And I'm like, and then I looked back, literally just in the shower, I was drawing on my wall, which is when I tend to channel. And I was like, holy shit, we've been going through shit for like, and it came out to 10 months. It has been a little over 10 months that I've been going through this giant transformation. And essentially what happened was like The version of me that thought he needed to work long and hard to make a lot of money, he died. Let's see, overgiving value for what I was being received, that died. Not having boundaries and allowing people to push me around, that died. What was the other one? Doubting myself? That was a hard one. That motherfucker. And I'm like, get down there, and I'm like, like, and I'm like, stop it. But like all these versions of myself died, and the hardest part was like letting them die, right? And it wasn't parts of myself that I like honored and was like holding tightly and was like, oh yeah, like that version of me is never gonna die. He's the one, like no. Like these were old conditioning that I think was like deeply rooted in me from, I'd say, my parents. I say this is definitely some childhood stuff coming up of just like, that summarizes it so well. It's like it was just a bunch of childhood stuff where I didn't value myself, I didn't value what I did, and I didn't value myself, my work, or my knowledge and my wisdom. And so essentially I didn't value myself, and then was literally shown every fucking way that I needed to in order to see how to value myself, right? It was a lot. And for all that to come up, and this is 10 months, and it feels like 10 years worth of work, but essentially to the point where I'm at now is like, as soon as I allowed all those versions to die and be pushed away, the new started to come through. So for instance, like now in work, I'm doing brand strategies, and those strategies are what we're creating the videos off of. So I put them together. So I used to just make videos or do a little bit of branding, but even on this client I'm working with now, is like, why would we make you a video before we did a brand strategy and exactly figure out how your funnel is working and then create a video that funnels people through it, right? Wouldn't that make sense? We weren't doing that before, but now we're doing that. But essentially, like, it pulled me out of the space where I was doing a ton of work and was getting underpaid, and now I'm like, all right, now I know it works, and we don't have to work that hard. It's the value that it brings you that is more of the value. And then, essentially, and then setting these boundaries with people, which is really uncomfortable. I'm a giver, but I've turned more into like prove to me you're worth my time and energy kind of guy now. But yeah, and then I don't think I'm doubting myself anymore. If anything, I'm just like, dude, I got a cool idea. Let's test it out. Let's go. And then if it doesn't work, I'm like, well, what if we change one thing? And I'm like, oh, there you go. You get what I mean? But it's like this eclipse energy of like, it's always going to be hard and tough. I think it's bullshit. I think it's if you've gone through the stuff since the last eclipse and you feel this layer peel back, it's time for you to like look at everything that you've grown from and when that date started and what you're advancing through now, because in doing so you're going to open up the door for even like more healing and more stuff to come in. Because kind of like what I did was like I just sat back and reflected and was like, oh shit, we've been through it. Not only that, but we went through it and we grew like crazy. Not only did we grow like crazy, but now we're advancing forward, which is the fun part. And the more that I kind of like looked and was like, oh wait, when I did this, the door to business just shot open. And more people are reaching out about that. I think we're onto something. I think this is the change. I think this is the version that we've been growing towards. And I think that's so true as to what it was, but also like taking the time to identify what positive feedback the universe is sending you from things that you do and change is so important. Like that's a secret within a secret, because if you just keep going and doing stuff, and then I see this with clients that I rebrand too. I'm like, so tell me about your last 100 clients. Who are the top 3 highest paid? What did you do? What did they have in common? And they're always like, oh shit. And I'm like, and then you think about that and like, think about that for yourself. Even if you made it this part of the video, like, here's the value for you. Look back, like, if you're in business or say you're starting your side hustle or something, like, what was one thing you did that brought in 3 clients, right? Like, everything tends to show up in threes. What is one thing you did that caused you to get the 3 most highest paying clients, and then replicate this system. Or like recently, what have you changed or introduced that maybe like 3 people just jumped on and was like, yes, because that's a sign that what you're doing and what you're growing from is working. That you've kind of put in the time. And even as I said that, I saw 1, 2, 3 on this recording, but essentially, like, you got to take time to look back, because all the information's always there. I think that's the craziest part, is like the information's always there. It's whether we realize it or not, or whether we give ourselves a chance to look at the feedback, right? Because until I was in there doodling on my shower wall, I was like, huh, I've been going through this for 10 months. And like, 10 months is a long time. No wonder I could forget about it. But even think about that, like for 10 months, I've been going through this death and transformation and transforming myself into this new version of myself. And I finally feel like I'm here. And until I realized that, I had no idea that I was completing probably one of the hardest cycles of my life. And then in doing so, I even like sat down and looked and was like, oh, when I do this, more clients attract in. That must be where the universe is pushing me now. And then, and then the completion of it is like sharing this with you guys. It's like, as I go through these lessons and stuff and I learn and I'm able to see stuff, if you're watching my content, you're probably dealing with something similar. We call it the law of attraction, right? And if I talk to you like you're my subconscious, you're going through the same thing too. And you're going to be like, dang, this guy's helping me through everything we're doing, right? That's how you create content like that, right? There's a big tip right there. But essentially, now, in going through the lesson, you can only master the lesson, and I've learned this too, is like when you teach what you've been through and you're able to share it clearly and help somebody else through it, you have not only gone through the lesson, but you've integrated the lesson, and most importantly, when you can teach somebody else the lesson to get through it sooner, you're clearing karma and you're actually generating karma. How dope is that? And that was my intention today. I was like, man, whenever I go through these really hard lessons or stuff, like, A, I want to tell you about it, I want to share them with you. B, I want to be able to relate to you and be like, I've been through it too, but here's what I did. And like, maybe you're missing this one part. Maybe by just reflecting, you're going to be like, holy shit, that changed my life. Oh my God, I didn't realize I was going through a transformation, And then bam, you're on the other side of it. And then it's your job to do the same thing, to create content, to share it with people, to tell them, to walk them through it, because it's a ripple effect. And it's just like going from one person to the next. And you know what? As we all kind of like do this stuff, not only are we going to grow our own content, but we're gonna share our content, and we're gonna see what is the best content to share with the world. Because I think that's what I'm even chasing still, is like, what content do people want me to talk about? I could talk about anything forever, but I want it to be meaningful, and I want it to create an impact. So, let me know below how I can create more of an impact, or how I've created an impact in your life. And I think that's it for today. I think that's it. Take time to reflect. Look back at 10 months and see what you've grown through. If this eclipse isn't hard for you, if you feel good, honor and look at what layers you peeled back. Who were you 10 months ago? Especially like during Virgo season when that new moon happened. Like, who were you then? What have you grown from? What have you changed? Who are you becoming? And yeah, how can you walk through that door that just opened? Like, the door literally opened. It's time for you to go through it. Who are you on the other side of that door, and who are you leaving behind? That, I think, that should be the name of this video. But anyways, guys, yeah, answer that question and think about that, because when you do, as you walk through that door and meet that person on the other side, or that person you want to meet, that's who you're becoming. That's who you have become by watching this video, and that is who you're going to be in the future that you can refer back to, or even you can look and you're like, that was that moment. It all changed and I became them. Who is that you're becoming? Man, I love that. All right, peace out, y'all. Have a good day.